Love God, love people, be His hands and feet. Those who are in need, be a light out in the street. Love God.
So the title or the subject or whatever we want to place at the top, just to say that we have a heading for the message, I guess, is I'm going to speak on loss tonight. So I looked up loss just as a definition to see what the dictionary would say. Right, that'd be the first place we would try and go to figure out what it actually means. So it says the fact or process of losing something or someone. Or it could be an amount of money lost by a business or an organization. It could be the state or feeling of grief when deprived of someone or something of value. And when you read those, you can think about it, and the words on the page don't create the emotion behind what those words are saying. Because when you're in the middle of it, those definitions don't even start to explain how you feel or what you're going through or the emotions that are attached to that. And we've all suffered. There's no one here exempt from suffering loss. Unfortunately, that's part of life and the way it is. There's going to be things that we're going to lose along the way. Some of us, over time, we're going to lose family members. Some are going to be older than us. Some of them are going to be younger, but we are going to experience that, unfortunately. Some of us will have friendships that we thought we had best friends, thought they was going to be there no matter what happened. You know, it's like, oh, I can always count on this person. You know, no matter what I go through, thick and thin, they're going to be right there. The fire starts turning up, and they turn their back and walk away. And then you feel that loss. Like, I thought they were there for me. I mean, we were close, like, we were just like family. And sometimes it is family, you know, that you're really close to, and you feel that deep friendship. And then when it feels like you need them the most, they're like, it's just too much, or they just walk away, or whatever the situation may be. Maybe they don't even purposely or consciously know they've done it, maybe distance or, you know, different jobs or different reasons, but it doesn't matter the reason why, because you still feel the loss. Understanding why the loss is there still does not help you deal with it, per se. It doesn't give you the comfort to say, okay, I'm good, I don't feel bad anymore, I mean, I feel great now. It doesn't happen like that, right? Because we're still going to feel that, and fill that void, right? Some of us have lost jobs. You know, and I've talked before, I'm not going to it, but I mean, I've recently went through that. I've been through that a couple times, but that was pretty difficult, especially when it took several months to find the next job. And no phone calls were coming or anything like that. And different things, you know, we might lose a home, we might lose a vehicle, we might have a bad wreck, the car might be gone, somebody might steal our car. All those losses, they still have emotional ties to them. And there's still things that we have to go through. Some other things I was thinking of, loss. Some people lose their hearing. I mean, some are born, they never have it, but then to have it and to lose it, I would think that would be even more detrimental. Or their speech, they can't talk. Or sometimes people wish I would be quiet and I would get that temporarily, but you know, doesn't quite happen that often, so I'm usually pretty talkative. Some people can't walk. There could be other things like that, but they are all still in the category of loss because you've lost something, either something you were supposed to be born with, right? God created us in His image, so we're supposed to be born with the hearing and walking and talking and all those things. So whether it's something we have and we lose in the process, friendships, family, whatever it is, we all understand what that is. And there's several effects and what a loss will do for you. And some of the effects, you know, like I said, is sorrow, right? We can become deeply saddened, right? It can just hurt us and just, you know, cut us to the core that we're just in such sorrow and anguish. For some of us, it could be mental pain that we just cannot get over. We can't wrap our brain around it. It just doesn't make sense, right? It's just like, I just don't understand why this happened again, or I don't even understand why this happened in the first place. It just doesn't make sense, and we just go over and over in our mind, and it just consumes us. And we can have physical pain. I was just trying to think through this whole thing, what all loss could, encapsulate. And there's physical pain if we have soldiers go off to war and they wind up losing limbs, or they wind up getting injuries during that part. They feel the pain of that. And there's a lot of pain there. They suffer not only the physical, but the emotional and the mental and everything else that goes with that. So they suffered loss. And sometimes you can go into isolation, right? You just feel like, okay, I'm grieving and this is just the worst ever, and it can be the worst ever. And the enemy will try and get you just to close in, right? I'm just hurting, nobody needs to touch me, nobody needs to be around me because I'm hurting so much, I don't want to be a burden to anybody else, or nobody else could ever understand how I feel, or nobody really wants to hear me. I don't want to drag somebody else down, make them have a bad day. So I'm just going to stay over here by myself, and eventually it'll just work out, or it won't, or whatever. But I'm just going to stay isolated from everybody. Which, like I say, is what the enemy wants to do. He wants to isolate us. He wants us to take us away from those that, even though they may not like, because honestly, nobody really likes to grieve, even to help someone else out. We like to do it because we're compassionate, we care, but I mean, the emotion, who wants to be sad, who wants to, just have that feeling. But we will do that if we truly love someone, and if we truly want to be there for them. That's a sacrifice we're willing to pay for them. But the enemy will tell them that nobody needs to be bothered, or nobody cares enough to take time for them. So when you do that, a lot of times the enemy will try and find ways to help you get through it. Find methods, coping methods. Some people will turn to violence. I know years back, somebody had worked with a coworker. He was talking about how he had lost his fiancée, and it was just a tragedy how he lost her, and some different things that happened in his life. And he said he hurt so bad he just became numb, that he couldn't feel anything. That he just turned in so inward, and it just like consumed him. That he said just to feel something, he would go out to the bars and he would just find somebody to pick a fight with. Because when he got punched and hit, he at least felt something. Because he was so void, the loss was so devastating to him, he didn't feel any life left. He had no purpose and nothing else to go on for. So he says, I'm at least going to feel something, even though it isn't good. I'm going to feel something, so I'm going to go out and start a fight somewhere. Whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. At least when I'm sitting there hurting, I at least feel something again. And sometimes people will use drugs and things like that to try and cope it and try and mask the pain they're in. Another thing it'll cause is fear. Right? So maybe it hurts so bad, whether it's a friend that betrays us or it's a loss of someone, fear will set in, be like, oh my goodness, my life's just going to be bad now. Look at this happen, and this has happened the second time or third time, or this is just a constant cycle, and I'm just scared to live each day. I don't even know if it's worth living anymore because everything bad's going to happen, and I'm just so afraid that nothing will ever work out in my life. And it could be truly that their life has been difficult, that they've had a difficult life as a childhood, as they've gone into teenage years and into adulthood, that life has thrown them. Just every time it seems they turn a corner, it just seems like life has just beat them up. So I don't say that in like a negative tone to anybody that, if anybody's here or anybody listening has that mindset, it doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you real and honest. But there's a God that died for you. There's a God that came to give you that peace and give you a comfort that you can't even explain. But He is there, and He is always there, and He paid the ultimate price. He went and suffered and took all the pain, all the shame, all the heartache, all the betrayal. So He's went through what He needed to do. He didn't stop short from any certain thing that we needed or would have a need of. Like saying, how we respond to loss, that's the big thing, is how are we going to respond when the loss comes? None of us are going to be able to avoid that. That's just life, unfortunately. Life comes, situations happen in life that cause a loss. That's just something out of our control. But like I say, the enemy will try and ease our pain, if we want to call it easing, right? He wants to temporarily give us things that will just help defer it long enough just to have some kind of peace. Like I say, alcohol, he'll offer you drinks. He'll let you drink to the bottom of every bottle you want to put in your hand, so you can't drink anymore and wake up the next day and start over again, just to drown out the voices. He'll give you all the drugs to get you as high as you want. He'll offer you sex, he'll offer you pornography, he'll offer you anything he can, because the enemy doesn't want you to find out and doesn't want you to believe. You may have heard, but it's kind of hard to believe when life sometimes hits you and you just keep getting what you feel like knocked down. So the enemy's going to throw all these things and say, there really can't be a God anyway, because if God really loved you and knew where you was, there's no way you would go through these things, and definitely not the amount of things you went through. There's no way that a loving God would allow that. God doesn't allow it, but unfortunately in this life, things do happen. But all those things, when you drink all you can drink, and you've been out with every partner you can be with, and you've done all the drugs you can do, your situation is still there, and you even got a greater loss. And the enemy will just sit there and laugh at you because he's taken a moment where you needed God, and he's jumped in real quick to try and sidetrack you and try and put a fog in front of you and try and put a wall that you can't see God. And he will do every lie and every trick, and he'll play upon every single emotion you have, because emotion's real, and it doesn't make us wrong, it makes us human. And it's okay, because God had emotions too when Jesus was here, but he had compassion. And that's what he wants to give for each and every one of us. And I'm going to give a couple examples of a couple times in my life that I've suffered that really devastated me. I kind of want to go through how I responded to those. And I've gave my testimony before about it, but at the age of 14, after being away from my dad and his mom and dad for 4 years, it would eventually wind up being 6 years. I had prayed ever since I had left that I would see my dad and his mom and dad, my grandparents. And I had prayed as a young child. I was close to God. I was in church. And I had prayed and prayed and prayed. I said, God, if there's nothing else you do in this life, as young as I was like, that's all I care. You do that, you let me see them three, and I'll be okay. Everything else, all the divorce, all the hurt, all the court battles, everything else, God, it'll be okay. But I need to see them again, because I haven't seen them in 4 years. But as I started, it just built up to 4 years that I'd made that prayer. And I got news while I was still in Mississippi and hadn't seen my grandfather in 4 years. They told me that he passed away. And that was something that I could not change. Nothing was going to bring you back. And find out they'd waited a little while till they thought I was able to handle the news, and I still wasn't. I took my pocket knife, started drawing lines on my arm, and thought about suicide, and just, I don't really serve a powerful God because he doesn't care anymore. God isn't going to be there for me. I have served God. I've went to church. I worship. I've prayed for people. I just did everything that I knew that was right. It didn't make me better than anybody, and I wasn't trying to do that with God, but I was just like, I don't understand. This is just not right, and if you're not big enough, you're not big enough to be my God. Because if you can't answer that prayer, and you're big enough to create us all, and you say you're big enough to take care of every comfort or every suffering moment and turn it around and at least help us, where are you now? Because you're not answering my prayer, and you're not the God I need right now. And because you're not, I'm not going to serve you. And I didn't say those words initially, but I slowly but surely started backing away. And when I got the opportunity, the enemy had some things. He had some devices, some vices to shackle me and put me in chains, under bondage. So the alcohol and the drugs and things followed. It was a little while longer, it was another 2.5 years. But I moved back to Kentucky and at least got to see my dad and my grandmother. But by that time, my heart had already got cold. And I didn't even have a relationship, and when God would speak to me, I told him I didn't care to hear from him, that he can just be quiet, because I didn't want to hear it. So I would just drink his voice away till I couldn't, and I would pass out. I'd wake up with a hangover and had less money in my pocket because I just spent a lot on trying to drown out the voice of God. But God pursued me, as he will each and every one of us. God will always. He will never, ever give up on us. He went to the cross and paid the ultimate price because he says you are worth it. Each and every one of you are worth every drop of blood, every stripe that's going to be laid across my back. You are going to be worth it. I don't care what mistakes you make, because before you make those mistakes and before you hit any difficult thing in life, I'm going to pay every bit of price it is to redeem you, to give you the hope that I'm going to die for, and the hope to be in heaven with me forever. He said, I am willing to do that because I love each and every one of my people, and I don't care if they betray me. I am still going to love them because my love will never fail. But he won't force his love on us. The one thing is, we have to accept it. And during that time, I chose not to. and I suffer the consequences of it. And God didn't say we wouldn't have troubles or suffer loss. So God didn't say, well, I died for you, and this is it. You say you love me, and I'll say I love you, and that's going to be it. Everything's going to be a bed of roses. Heaven's going to be the bed of roses. Heaven's going to be where there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no sorrow. So he's prepared a place, and he's done it. We just have this small thing called time separating us from what he's already prepared. But he's given us the peace to be able to walk the strength and the grace and mercy. And when we fall down, he's there already with his hand outstretched saying, just take my hand. Don't turn your back, just right there. I'm there for you. I don't care. I love you. I will forgive you. I died for you. And that's what he offers for us. But it requires us taking that step to accept what he did for us. And in John 16:7, it says, nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. You know, he had a plan for each and every one of us. You know, we are never alone, no matter what we're going through. The key is we must turn to him for help. You know, and he will be there for us. And sometimes the way that he's there, just not himself, is through other people. He will send people on our path. He will send people to help us. Like I said, the enemy's going to try and send people to drag you down and give you alternatives. But God, if you listen to him, he will send people in your life. And I've had people speak into my life over the years that I know God sent to be able to help me through a time. And sometimes they didn't even know what I was going through, but they were willing just to either listen to me or just say, you know, I'm really praying for you, or whatever God put on the heart. But God has a way to reach you where you are. You just have to reach back out to him because he's never withdrawn his hand from you. And it isn't just us. I mean, it's happened through all the Bible times. The Bible has plenty of examples. You know, in Job 14:1, Job says, man that is born of a woman, which we're all born of a woman, so we're all included in that, is of a few days and full of trouble. Right? So some of us say, man, we see people live 90 years, 100 years. It's still a few days compared to eternity. And Job, when he went through the trial, he lost everything. You know, he lost everything. The Bible says, but his wife, right? So he had suffered everything. He lost all of his, you know, his kids and just all of his possessions and everything. And he was saying, you know, life, you know, even his darkest time, he was talking and, you know, and saying, this is, you know, everybody that's born, it's just, this life's full of trouble. This is just, you know, at times it's just plain miserable, and I don't like it at all. So he was open about it. You know, it isn't that, you know, when you come to God, everything, like I say, is just smoothed over. But there's a peace that will pass understanding. There's a peace that you will be able to walk under that I can't explain to you. There's times that I've suffered these losses, and when I've turned to God, I've been able to walk through peace. It doesn't mean I don't cry sometimes. It doesn't mean I'm not hurt at times. But it does mean that I know deep in my soul I don't have to fall for a trick of the enemy and a lie, because I serve the God that can pull me up. I serve the God that can hold me. And sometimes I've heard it, and there's songs even talked about, that it's okay to not be okay. For so long when I was in church, I was like, oh man, I can't let anybody know that I got a problem, right? I mean, I got this all figured out, and even if I don't, my goodness, I ain't gonna let anybody know I don't, because I must not be good enough for God if I'm gonna let somebody know that I'm struggling or going through trouble. But you know, it is okay to not be okay. It's okay to say, man, I'm broken, I'm hurting, or I don't even know where to go. I don't know where to put my next step. You know, what do I do? It's not good to be in that place, but it's okay. It isn't a condemning place to be. But it's a place where redemption can reach up and grab you, that God can reach down, that he can hold you up and say, you are why I died. And I'm going to show you how much I love you. Walk after me, and you're going to walk in a peace that doesn't even make sense. Everything else can be falling around you, and you can still walk forward. Right? Because the peace is just knowing that God is there, that no matter what situation you face, he's going to be there to hold you, to comfort you, to give you a way out of any situation, and to help you until you get to that point. And in Psalms, David was writing, he says, for my soul is full of troubles, and my life draweth nigh into the grave. So David's talking like, man, this is just so bad. I just feel like, you know, I'm getting ready to die. This is so bad. I don't even say how I can live through this. This is such a big deal, and so much that I'm going through. You know, David was running for his life. He was already anointed king at a young age, but he hadn't reached that place that God had for him. So he definitely didn't understand why the current king was throwing spears at him and chasing him and getting armies to where he's hiding in the caves and everything else. So David was running for his life, but he had already been anointed king. So when the time came, he knew he was going to be king. So it's got to be hard for him to figure out how am I going to be king when I got somebody throwing spears at me and I'm having to run in caves and hide and everything, you know. And in his grief, he's just like, man, this. I don't think I can make it through this. And in Hebrews 13:5, Jesus says, and he promises, he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So he's already made that promise. And God can't lie. And that's why Jesus came, that we can partake of that and we can experience that no matter what we face, whatever we go through, that he is not going to leave us, that he is always going to be there. And in John 16:33 it says, these things I have spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. So Jesus is just flat out telling you, yes, there are going to be troubles. This world is in a fallen state. It is not what I created in the garden. It's not my plan. And it's not what I planned for my people to live in. But what's happened has happened. But that's okay. I've already went to the cross. I've already done what it takes to overcome any and every situation. And I have what it takes to get you to be with me in eternity. And we must, like I said, we must choose to look to God for our comfort. Because there's plenty of counterfeits out there. For everything God has, the enemy's done worked up plans for a counterfeit to trick you, to entrap you, and all those things are just vices. Now the second loss I was going to talk about is a lot more recent. It's a lot more difficult. Because I lost my middle brother last December. Totally unexpected. It was just devastating news. To hear my dad just break down on the phone and call me and tell me. And I could barely make out what he was saying. And he was just screaming, he's gone, he's gone. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He's like, your brother, he's gone. He's dead. And I'm like, what? It was just devastating. So my dad's about an hour and a half away. I think I made it in about an hour. So it probably wasn't the best decision I could make. All right, we already had one go away. I don't need to do that, but I took a different approach. I was angry, and I let God know as I sat there and beat the steering wheel while I was trying to drive, but I'm just going to be real and transparent. I don't say I've always got it together, and I definitely didn't have it all together at that point. As I was screaming and crying and driving a lot faster than I needed to and beating the steering wheel, just screaming, no, 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 God, this is not right. You have promised, and I have just, there's just so many things I could think of we've done as kids being raised up and so much fun and so many more. And he's only 42, I'm 45, and it's like, the time I was 44 of it was like, no, God, this is not right. I'm not ready for this, I'm not prepared. And I just was really at a loss the whole time driving, just trying to wrap my brain around it. But I told God, I said, I don't understand, and it doesn't make sense, but I will not make the same mistake, because I will trust you, and I will continue to trust you, and I don't understand, and I don't like it, and I hate it, but you're still God, and you're still in control, and you're strong enough to bring me through, and I won't feed the lies of the enemy. And it wasn't a battle like it was before, so it wasn't like I was thinking, oh man, I go get a drink now, or I need some drugs, I need something to help. It didn't even cross my mind. It didn't even, because I was so sure, and God has already taken me to a place. It doesn't mean I'm better than anybody, but he had me in a place that his peace was able to flow in. And he was able to hold me and say, you're going to be okay. You can scream all you want. You can yell, you don't understand. I'm big enough to handle that. That's okay. You're still my son. You can be upset, and I understand, and I grieve for you, but I have peace. That's why I went for you. And I was able to focus on everybody else, my mom and my dad, and I've got a younger brother, and our sister's the youngest, they're all grieving. And as I was going through mine, I was still able to, before, when I found out about my grandfather, who was in the living room of a house my mom was renting, and I run off by myself, and I slammed the door. It's bad to look back, but my two brothers are sitting there, by themselves, trying to be consoled with my mom and one of my uncles, and here I am, I'm so devastated that I just close myself in. I tear my bed apart, I put everything in front of the door, I make sure nobody can get in the windows, and as I do more and more, I'm just thinking about ending it all, but once God transforms your life, even when you have something devastating, and you stay close to Him, you can respond and let your emotions come out. Like I say, He's big enough. But when He gives you that peace down and you've walked in and you've tried and you've trusted God, and He has proven to you over and over that no matter what you go through, that He's big enough to handle it, but you need to let Him be there. And in this instance, I chose to let Him be there for me. Like I said, I didn't look inward. I didn't only look at myself and say, woe is me, and, all those things that, would do. I just, and I still have times that I break down. It's a little difficult. I was having trouble before I even got up here writing the message out. It was okay to put it on paper. It was there, but in the moment, it's tough. Thinking about coming up here and telling you this. And to add to it, it's his birthday today. So, I did good today at work. Got busy, didn't think about it, didn't bother me. Think about it before, but getting up here and I was getting ready to come up, I just started remembering all the times that we spent together. And my God, there was supposed to be a lot more time we had. But we don't. So it's okay, we'll be reunited in heaven. So I'm gonna stay the course. I'm gonna do as God has planned for me to do. I'm gonna fulfill the purpose He has. And I'm going to do it because He's going to give me the strength. I don't have the strength myself to do it. I'm about to wrap up. If the worship team wants to come up. Like I said, that song, last song they sung just about the Father's arms are open wide. That's who He is. He's the one that is always there to take us in, to always help us, to be there for us. Like I say, the enemy will try to isolate you. And he'll try and trap you, by whatever loss, whether it's big or small. Because some of us, we might want to try and compare, and somebody has this happen, and, God forgive us, we might be like, well, that isn't really that big a deal. Well, how do you know what it is to them, right? To each person, that loss that they have and they own and they've suffered, it is as big as anything else that you may be going through, because to them it is real, it's in their face. So never try and look to say, oh, well, that ain't, I wish if they really felt something big, then maybe no. It's everybody has something that we need God for, and that's why He died for us. In 1 Peter 5:8 it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." And I believe the key part in all that, it doesn't say he will always devour. It said He's seeking whom He may. So He's seeking who's going to give Him permission to devour. Right? Who's going to give Him that permission? Because we have to turn over control at that point. Because God stands ready, but we're in the middle of that. We have to decide whose hand are we going to grab? Who are we going to turn to?